Hello, and welcome to the Night Sky Reader. I'm here with a story to help you relax, meditate, or gently drift to sleep. Tonight, The Quiet Breath of Leaves at Dawn. Settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin. Before sunrise, the garden appears to have settled into its smallest, stillest shape. The beds, stones, and stems look almost perfectly still, yet leaf transpiration is already underway. The air is cool enough to rest lightly on every surface. Soil holds the night. A pale blue-gray lies over the path, the low fence, the clustered leaves. Nothing asks to be hurried. One leaf near the front border catches what little light there is. It is broad, matte, and slightly cupped, a hosta leaf lifted from the darker mass beneath it. Along one raised vein, a thin silver line of moisture lies on the outer surface, a trace left by the dampness of the night. It does not move. The leaf does not move. Yet below this quiet surface, below the stem that supports it, below the dark mulch and the loosened loam, water is already on its way upward. If it helps, attention can settle there for a while, on the idea that stillness is not empty. The view narrows now. It follows one thread among many, not a single drop but one continuous root of water drawn from the ground toward this one leaf. The work begins out of sight, where the soil is darker and cooler than the air above it, and where every small space between particles holds more than darkness alone. In the root zone, the earth is close-textured and soft with old matter broken down into grain and crumb. Mineral particles sit beside fragments of leaf litter and thin roots, all of it wrapped in faint films of water. Not puddles, not channels, only a coating so fine it clings to each surface. Here, moisture is not separate from the soil. It is held against it, folded through it, resting around it. Fine root hairs press into these narrow spaces. They are far more delicate than the thicker roots a gardener might pull from the ground, so fine that they fit among the soil particles and touch those thin films directly. Each root hair is a living boundary. Water crosses inward through its membrane because the balance on one side is not quite the same as on the other. The difference is slight. It is enough. Along with the water come dissolved traces from the soil. Nitrate, potassium, calcium, tiny mineral cargo carried so quietly that nothing in the garden above gives any sign of it. The transfer is not sudden. It is patient and continuous. Water moves from film to root hair, from root hair into the tissues behind it, from one living space to the next. The plant is not a sealed green object placed on the earth. It is open to it in countless fine places. The ground itself seems to sustain this pace. Coolness slows what would otherwise be too abrupt. Dampness softens edges. Even the faint dark scent lifting from the bed carries the weight of stored moisture and gradual release. Beneath the hosta, beneath nearby grass blades and the lower stems of a tomato plant farther down the row, the same kind of contact is taking place over and over, in silence, at a scale too small to announce itself. The thread of water passing into this plant joins other incoming threads until it enters the root more fully, moving inward through living cells and then toward the specialized root that will carry it upward. The root does not simply collect. It sorts, guides, and passes along. What began as a film around soil grains becomes part of the plant's inner continuity. From there, the path turns into the stem. Inside the stem, hidden by green tissue and the slight outer firmness of the plant, water enters the xylem. These are narrow conducting pathways, aligned in long vertical lines, built to carry water upward from roots toward leaves. The stem looks solid from outside, but within it there is direction and lift. The route is slender without being precarious. It is living structure paired with a column of water that holds together by cohesion, each molecule tending to remain joined to the next, the walls of the xylem guiding the column upward. The ascent is not driven by a pump hidden in the stem. It depends on continuity. The supply below and the release above belong to the same unbroken pull. Even now, before sunrise fully arrives, the column stands ready through the plant, tension carried in stillness. Outside, the sky has shifted only a little. The eastern edge of the garden is no longer dark blue, but washed with a thinner color, as if the night has been diluted. The path is more visible. The ribs in the hosta leaf are easier to distinguish. Still, the true movement remains inside. Water rises through the stem without shine or sound, past supporting fibers, past living cells that maintain the plant, through the narrow xylem route that links root and leaf in one vertical line. A stem in this hour feels almost architectural. It stands firm in cool air, and within that firmness is motion. Water is being replaced upward by water that moved before it, each portion drawing the next along. The pre-dawn hush does not cancel the day to come. It prepares for it. There is no need to picture every microscopic detail. It is enough to notice the principle: dark soil below, pale air above, and between them a column of water held in the plant, continuous and already capable of rising farther as the morning begins. The thread reaches the petiole, then enters the leaf. Within the hosta leaf, the main vein branches and branches again. Thick central lines become finer side veins, then smaller pathways spreading water across the broad green surface. What looked from above like a single leaf is, at close range, a structured field. The vein under the silver line is raised slightly, firm enough to catch a trace of moisture on the outside and to carry liquid within. From these veins, water moves into the tissues of the leaf, where exchange becomes possible. The leaf can be seen more clearly now for what it is. Its upper surface is cool, matte, faintly textured, with a skin that limits direct loss from the outside. Its underside is dimmer, more sheltered, turned toward the shaded air close to the bed. Inside, the leaf is neither solid nor hollow. It contains moist cell walls and small air spaces between cells, a geometry built for contact between liquid water and air. The interior remains wet where it needs to be wet. The outer surfaces remain controlled. On the underside, mostly out of sight from a casual glance, are the stomata, microscopic openings bordered by guard cells. They are not decoration and not damage. They are regulated thresholds in the leaf skin, places where the interior can meet the surrounding air in a measured way. During the night, when light is absent, and the air is cool and often humid, those openings are more restrained. The difference between the moist spaces inside the leaf and the air beyond it is gentler then. A thin layer of air rests close against the leaf surface. This boundary layer is cooler and stiller than the air a little farther away. It stays near the leaf because the garden is nearly windless. At this scale, even stillness has texture. The air beside the leaf has humidity, temperature, resistance. It can hold vapor. It can slow vapor. It can be changed by what leaves release into it. The silver line along the vein catches more light now, not bright, just enough to turn from gray to diluted blue. It is moisture on the outside, condensed from the night air. It belongs to the surface conditions of this hour. It is not the water that will soon leave from within. That outward journey has a different path. Under the skin of the leaf, near the smallest veins, liquid water spreads into the moist walls of cells. As dawn approaches, the balance between interior moisture and surrounding air begins to shift. The leaf is not a flat panel hung in the garden. It is a threshold, carefully built, supplied from below and oriented toward the atmosphere above and around it. Its apparent stillness contains selection, control, and constant exchange. First light arrives gradually enough that the change seems to happen in the air before it happens in the sky. The blue-gray thins. A pale gold begins far off. Not yet sunlight on the leaf, but a new quality in the morning. The garden path loses its last uncertainty of outline. The edges of neighboring leaves sharpen. Coolness remains, but it is no longer deepening. It is beginning, almost imperceptibly, to loosen. Within the hosta leaf, the change matters. Guard cells along the underside take up water and alter in shape, and the stomata begin to open more readily. The openings are still microscopic, still discrete, but they are no longer held as narrowly as they were in the darker hour. With light comes a different pattern in the leaf's behavior, and the exchange at its surface becomes easier to follow. Water from the xylem has already reached the moist inner tissues. Now, from those damp cell walls inside the leaf, some of that water evaporates into the intercellular air spaces. Liquid becomes vapor within the leaf before it leaves the leaf. From those internal air spaces, the vapor diffuses outward through the stomata and into the thin air just beyond the underside. Not by forming beads on the surface like dew, and not by pushing liquid out across the skin, but by letting water evaporate from internal moist surfaces and pass outward as vapor through these regulated openings. The silver along the vein remains an outer trace of the night air. Transpiration is something else, quieter and more constant, taking place from within. As the air warms slightly and relative humidity shifts, the gradient strengthens between the moist interior of the leaf and the air outside it. That difference does the work. Vapor moves outward because the air within the leaf is more saturated than the air beyond it. Each release increases the demand for replacement water from below, and so the xylem continues to lift. Soil moisture, root uptake, stem transport, leaf structure, and dawn conditions now belong to one continuous process, though almost none of it can be seen directly. The leaf is no longer only a broad green form holding early light. It is a living boundary between stored water and open air, allowing loss and supply to remain linked. The balance is dynamic but not dramatic. It is a matter of regulation, not alarm. The hosta leaf holds its shape. Its surface stays cool, vapor leaves through many small stomata, and the movement remains softer than silence. Yet the effect is real enough to tug on the entire upward column, drawing the soil's stored water upward through root and stem until it reaches this surface and passes beyond it. Just outside the leaf, the released vapor enters the boundary layer, the small envelope of air resting against the underside and along the edges. There it slightly raises the local humidity. For a brief span the vapor stays close, mixed into that cooler, slower air. Then a faint movement passes through the bed. Not a gust, only a modest stirring as dawn reorganizes the garden. The nearest grass blades shift by less than their own width. A spider thread beneath one leaf changes angle. The boundary layer loosens. That is enough to carry the moisture outward. As the humid air close to the hosta leaf is gently displaced and mixed with the air beyond it, the difference between leaf interior and surrounding atmosphere is renewed. The pathway remains open. Transpiration continues. Nothing needs to force it. The morning itself, by becoming slightly brighter and slightly more mobile, keeps the exchange in motion. The wider garden is doing the same work in many forms at once. A tomato leaf farther along the bed, narrower and more divided, has its own underside openings and its own thin boundary air. Rose leaves near the fence, smaller and firmer, release water in their measure. Grass along the path contributes from countless narrow blades. A patch of mint near the stone border adds its own cool dampness to the low air. No two leaves meet the morning in exactly the same way, yet each alters the atmosphere a little. The result is not something the eye can isolate like a cloud or stream. At leaf height, the air in the garden is being continuously composed by many small releases of water vapor. Humidity is not only a property brought in from elsewhere. Here, at dawn, it is partly made local and immediate by living surfaces. The air receives what leaves send into it, and then carries it on. As light increases, shapes in the garden separate more clearly from one another. Mulch is no longer one dark field but a scatter of fibrous pieces and damp hollows. The wooden edge of the bed turns from charcoal to brown. The stone path takes on a muted color, cooler in the shade, faintly warmer where the sky opens above it. Through all of this, the exchange between leaves and atmosphere continues in a way that changes the place without announcing itself. A person standing here might call the morning fresh. The air is a partner in this. Each condition depends on the next, and each remains ordinary enough to escape notice. The view can widen and still stay calm. Beds, stems, low branches, and the shaded path all sit within the same brightening morning. The garden does not suddenly become active. It reveals that it has been active all along. By the time dawn fully settles over the leaves, the silver line along the hosta vein has thinned. Some of that outer moisture has evaporated as the surface warms. The leaf beneath it is more plainly visible now, green and ridged, no less still to the eye than before. Yet stillness means something different after following the path that water takes. Nothing in the quiet garden at dawn requires recognition for this. The process does not reach a finish line with sunrise. It simply becomes easier to hold in mind once the first light has shown its edges. The hosta leaf stands now in soft morning color, its broad surface open to the day, its underside still the place where much of the exchange is managed. Around it the air is lightly animated, carrying away what the leaf releases and making room for more to follow. The upward movement from the soil continues unseen, calm and exact. And so the view returns to where it began, near the leaf and the air that touches it. The silver line is almost gone. The vein beneath it remains. Beyond the skin of the leaf, water is still arriving, still evaporating, still leaving as vapor through openings too small to see. The air receives it, shifts, and carries it onward. The garden remains gentle. The exchange remains steady. Between soil and sky, the work goes on. Thank you for spending this time with the night sky reader. May your night be peaceful. Until next time, rest well.